Ice Trae Young.
My man.
Can we do that?
Can we do that?
I need a sweater. Somebody bring a sweater, please. Oh.
Chill.
You right. Chill.
What's up, Brody, man? Appreciate you on the pod, bro.
Man, appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely. How's life, man? Congratulations. How's fatherhood going?
Good. I'm two kids under 2. My son just turned 2 on June 2nd, and then I have an 8-month-old girl, and it's life changing, bro.
Also, you've been changing diapers.
Oh yeah.
You've been changing diapers.
You've been on father time.
No, for sure. I have a younger brother, like 12 years younger than me. So when I was a little 10, 12-year-old, I was working.
Trae Young is arguably one of the most hated basketball players in the world. From being relentlessly bullied to being constantly criticized for his style of play, it's no wonder he's barely in the spotlight. What if I told you that Trae Young is a misunderstood superstar with accomplishments greater than LeBron's and a kind heart for the people around him? It seems like all this hate is misplaced. But how did it all start, and why is he so hated? Well, to find out, we have to go back to 1998 when Rayford Young, a standout basketball player at Texas Tech, fathered a little boy he named Trae. After Rayford finished his college and professional basketball career, Trae and Rayford settled down in Norman to become one of the best point guards in history. However, the prodigy Young often went unnoticed due to his short stature of 5 feet 7 inches. As a result, Young developed a temperament that helped him dominate his competition. And this led to his home school of Oklahoma, where he was a ball boy in his younger years, offering him a scholarship in 2014 when Trae was just 15 years old. But during the summer between his sophomore and junior years of high school, everything really changed for Trae, as he had been performing at an incredible level against some of the best players in his class, including current MVP candidate Jason Tatum and elite NBA guards Malik Monk and Darren Fox. The stage was set for Young to prove that he was more than just a small shooting guard. But it wasn't to be, as soon after, Trae's NBA dreams were almost completely crushed. You see, Trae Young wasn't always the superstar point guard we know today, as during his early years in high school, Trae was more of a shooting guard, moving further and further away from the three-point line as everyone around him grew up. And this caused Trae to struggle at Nike camp. But this failure didn't stop Trae. It spurred him on as he continued to work hard on his game over the summer, fixing his ball handling issues and becoming the bona fide point guard we know today. He made a huge leap forward, averaging a whopping 42 points per game in his senior year of high school, and then representing the U18-U19 team, where Young and his team won the gold medal, making it abundantly clear that Trae was ready to make the jump to college and show the world that he was more than just a scrawny point guard. But despite this jump, ESPN never ranked him as the #1 shooting guard in his class, always saying that Trae was too small and lacked the size and strength to finish around the basket. On top of that, they also pointed out that his frail frame would never make an impact on the defensive end of the court, which made the chip on his shoulder even bigger, and Trae was ready to make a big decision. The talented point guard decided to commit to his hometown University of Oklahoma, and the work he had put in was paying off. He started the season off incredibly, and Trae started getting comparisons to another short shooting guard, Bill Simmons, who was well known for hating college basketball, tuning into Oklahoma games because he liked Young's game so much. However, Trae never tried to shift blame away from the poor results. The NCAA's history of leading the nation in scoring and assists with Trae lived up to the hype and pressure he put on himself. But what came next would change Trae's career as he entered his name into the 2018 draft, and this was met with a lot of negative comments from the NBA media. However, in 2009, another diminutive guard, fresh off of dominating college basketball, was also entering the draft, and many analysts and pundits were saying the same thing. However, a certain assistant general manager, Travis Schlenk, saw something in this player that many didn't, and that player happened to be 4-time NBA champion and 2-time MVP Stephen Curry. Travis Schlenk, one of the many members of the Golden State Warriors front office responsible for turning the Warriors franchise from nothing into a dynasty, had recently been promoted to general manager of the Atlanta Hawks, tasked with doing with the Hawks exactly what he had done with the Warriors. Atlanta, who was the third worst team in the NBA during the 2017 and 2018 seasons, conveniently won the 3rd pick in the 2018 NBA draft lottery, a pick they would use to draft an 18-year-old EuroLeague MVP, Luka Doncic. But what happened next would forever change the careers of Luka and Trae. The Dallas Mavericks had the 5th pick and decided to use it to select Trae Young.
Great question.
Thank you.
But So I've always been a dog person, right? So I got 2 dogs. I got 2 Frenchies.
Okay.
And they're one's Normie, Atlanta, after Norman, Oklahoma, and Atlanta. Atlanta, obviously. And then, so my girl, she's grown up having cats and stuff. So I've never been a cat person a day in my life. So we went to this cat place, not to give you a long answer, but we went to this cat place and this cat woman had a lot of cats in her house and I don't like cats. So I went in the house and I'm like, nah, we leaving. So we left. And I gave it another day. She was upset because I was like, we're not getting a cat. And then she was like, what if I have them bring them over and stuff? And they don't usually do that, but they knew who it was. So, and this is a different type of cat. This is like a Bengal cat, like a white, like looking tiger. I mean, you always as a kid want to have like an exotic pet. So it kind of looked like it. So
I know. I'm
but anyway, so to make a long story short, this cat chose me. So I mess with it. It stays. It's my only cat I really like. So
Trae, who was born in Texas, was thrilled to be playing for one of the 3 Texas teams until it was announced shortly after that the Hawks had traded Luka Doncic to Dallas in exchange for Trae Young and a first-round pick in the upcoming NBA draft. Travis Schlenk now had the man many considered to be the next Steph Curry, plus another first-round pick. And while this trade seemed very fair and reasonable to everyone at the time, it couldn't have been further from the truth, as what happened during the start of the 2018 to 2019 season would forever change Trae's career for the worse. A few months after the draft, Trae, along with other young Hawks players and NBA prospects, entered the NBA Summer League, with many fans, coaches, and scouts excited to see how he developed. And when asked about his rapid rise, Trae shared, "Success never stopped for Trae because thanks to his inspiring turnaround, he became a fan favorite." In just his second season in the NBA, he received a whopping 2.8 million fan votes for All-Star, which meant he was named a starter. Trae was incredibly excited. Something truly shocking happened during that season. With the 2020 Olympics right around the corner, Trae, who had already represented the United States at the U18 level, was excited about the opportunity to at least attend training camp to hone his craft, compete against and learn from the NBA's top guards. But not only did Trae not make the 15-player roster for the Tokyo Olympics, he was excluded from the 44-player training camp roster. While we'll never know why, there's speculation that Young's height and size were deemed too small for international play, and Trae's exclusion left him devastated. However, what happened during the 2021 season was even more shocking, as the Hawks, for the first time in Trae's career, were in the playoff hunt. But the fans who voted him an All-Star last season didn't show up. This meant that Young wasn't announced as an NBA All-Star starter for 2021, which for Trae isn't the end of the world, as All-Star reserves are voted on by the NBA's 30 head coaches. And with the 2021 All-Star game being held in Atlanta, Trae had hopes of being named an All-Star reserve. Fans printed and held up signs with what looked like a dove, and made bird noises instead of booing or yelling when Trae was at the free throw line. Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York during this playoff series, paused an important press conference to make this comment about Trae Young's play. Now, what was de Blasio referring to when he mentioned Steve Nash, one of the greatest point guards of all time and current coach of the Brooklyn Nets? Well, a key issue that many fans have with Trae is how he plays the game of basketball. And the possession that de Blasio was referring to is this one, where Trae came off a pick and locked up his defender, which is a normal, legal basketball play. But as soon as Trae felt his defender leaning toward him, he jumped up drawing the foul, which led to Steve Nash exploding at the referee, and you can hear him yelling that that's not basketball. Trae's creative ability to bend the rules to his own advantage has caused many other NBA players to dislike him, who consider his way of playing to be disrespectful to the game. This makes a lot of fans frustrated as well, seeing Trae punish defenders in ways that don't look natural, such as jumping back on his defender, and this fueled what many NBA fans believe to be the biggest problem in the NBA today, that players can't really play physical defense anymore. But this comment sums it up perfectly. Trae is simply trying to win the game, and if the referees are letting Trae get away with this behavior, then of course he's going to continue doing it. Because as Trae says, and this competitiveness was on full display during Game 2 of the Knicks series, because with 8 minutes left, another big reason why Trae Young is misunderstood by fans was revealed. Trae Young was shooting free throws, and the Knicks crowd erupted in mockery of the superstar's thinning hair. And this seems to be a problem that a lot of fans have, with comments like, or this comment saying, Trae Young is because he can't find a competent barber. But as usual, Young stayed focused on the task at hand, and the Hawks headed into Game 5 having won 3 games to the Knicks' 1 win, meaning they were just 1 win away from eliminating the Knicks and silencing their crazy fans.
I think it was, to be honest, it was a great. I mean, it was good and bad. You know what I'm saying? It was the only bad part is we didn't get to win as much as we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, like the good part is like we have a lifelong relationship. Like our relationship goes outside of basketball. Like we're both family men. Our morals are very much similar as far as who we have around us, what we try to do with our everyday lifestyle, everything. We try to do everything for others and things like that. Like the way we get along off the court is forever. That's why our relationship is forever. But on the court, it's just tough because we wanted to win, but it's just sometimes like we're not the first duo that couldn't work, and we're not going to be the last. So it's just 2 point guards. And obviously when the time happened, I was overly excited. Like I was the first person that called one, I think before the news even broke. Like, but I knew it was final and things like that. But I was super excited because I knew I had somebody that could come in and help me, or I knew a really good player. And but it just didn't work out on the court, and it sucks. It sucks, and we both admit it sucks, and that's just part of the game. If it doesn't work, teams have to figure out what to do next and make moves.
Right. Initially though, like when he got there, was it just like, did you notice it right away? Like, oh yeah, I'm loving this. Like he gets to handle the ball a little bit, take a little pressure off me. Like I can spot up sometimes. Yeah,
I think it was tough because we're both very unselfish in ways. So it's like there were times early where I'm passing it to him, and he wants to be aggressive, but he's a point guard too. So he's not, you know what I'm saying, thinking score first all the time. But when I'm on the court, sometimes he's a shooting guard, but sometimes, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the combination just kind of just didn't work. And on paper, you may think it would because in San Antonio, he's a really good defender, known as just a defender. Wasn't really known as a scorer, but just defender, can kind of do everything, rebound, score, but get other guys involved. But when he came to us, it's like a real, it's just a different feel. And so, it just sucks it didn't work. But
in June, the Hawks ended up getting the #1 draft pick in Zachary Rizache. Have you had an opportunity to speak with them or maybe even do some workouts together yet?
I spoke with him. A lot of people were talking about how I didn't tweet about him or stuff on draft day and things like that. I've always done that and stuff. But like I messaged him like behind the scenes right before Summer League and just shot him some good luck, just stuff like that, and just stuff that I don't even care for people to know, but obviously they're going to know now. But I talked about...
The Hawks held a solid lead throughout the game until Trae finally hit this dagger of a three and then bowed to the arena. This bow, along with completely crushing the Knicks and their fans' playoff hopes in spectacular fashion, had Knicks fans taking to the streets and chanting. And shortly after this game, GQ published an article naming Trae Young a supervillain. Many analysts believed that Trae Young would never get to this point, saying that he was too small, that he would never become a superstar, and that he would be a failure. But despite this hate, Young and the Hawks eventually made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And even though the Hawks were eventually eliminated by the Milwaukee Bucks, Trae had cemented himself as a superstar-level player. And despite Young permanently eliminating the entire state of New York as a fan base, the rest of the NBA fan base was beginning to love him. And thanks to his villainous art, Trae tripled his votes from the 2021 season. This made Trae an all-star once again, and it wasn't just the fans who changed their minds about Trae, but the media, coaches, and players as well, as Trae was named All-NBA 13, crowning him as one of the top 15 players in the entire NBA. However, Trae wasn't just named to the All-NBA team, but he also had a historic season, leading the entire NBA in total points scored and total assists, a feat only accomplished by one other player in history, which is Nate Archibald. This performance led a mediocre Atlanta Hawks team to another playoff berth against the top-seeded Miami Heat. But this is where things started to go horribly wrong for the Atlanta Hawks, as aside from Trae, they had no other star, allowing the Hawks to be eliminated from the playoffs in an embarrassing 5 games. Travis Schlenk, the man who recruited Trae, had decided to call it quits after losing to the Miami Heat, and former NBA player and San Antonio Spurs scout Landry Fields was elevated to Travis's role. Landry had one clear goal: to get Trae the help he needed, because coming off an Eastern Conference Finals appearance and being named All-NBA 13, there was Trae in exchange for another 2022 All-Star in Jonty Murray. The stage was set for Trae to have another incredible season, and with the FIBA World Cup right around the corner in 2023, Trae was hopeful that he would finally make it to training camp, and due to the nature of the younger teams the US takes to the FIBA World Cup, that he would make it to the roster. However, things didn't go well at all for Trae Young. who despite having another incredible season, averaging 27 points and 10 assists per game before the All-Star break, didn't get enough votes from fans to be named an All-Star starter. This meant that Trae was dependent on all 30 NBA head coaches voting him in as a backup, but this is where he faced the same issues from 2021. In an anonymous poll conducted by news outlet The Athletic, Trae Young was singled out in one category. When the 54 players interviewed were asked who they thought was the most overrated player in the NBA, Young was voted number 1, making it clear exactly what his peers thought of him, and Trae Young was not voted as an All-Star reserve in 2023. And things got even worse for Trae because despite signing another All-Star level player, the Hawks were 29-30 heading into the All-Star break. This awful record led to the firing of their head coach, Nate McMillan, and while it's not unusual for a coach of an underperforming team to be fired, this was the second time an Atlanta Hawks coach had been fired since Trae was selected, earning him the nickname Coach Killer. Trae's first coach, Lloyd Pierce, was named head coach of the Atlanta Hawks in 2018, the same year Young was drafted. And many praised Lloyd for being one of the best development coaches in the entire NBA. This meant that Pierce seemed like the perfect hire for the rebuilding Hawks, someone who wasn't focused on winning games, but rather on developing the Hawks' young players for future success. But this is where the problems between Trae and Lloyd began. On Christmas Eve 2019, the Hawks faced the Cleveland Cavaliers, and with 5 seconds left on the clock, the Hawks were down 118-121. The Hawks needed a three-pointer to tie the game and have a chance to win in overtime. So Coach Lloyd Pierce calls a timeout to set up a game-saving play. He decided to have Young get the ball instead of going outside or setting a screen for another player. After Trae passes the ball to Vince Carter, it's clear that the play was for Young to escape a screen set by John Collins for a corner three, but Cavaliers defensive specialist Colin Sexton completely botched it, forcing Trae to escape Vince and shoot a three-pointer from 30 feet, which he missed. And the game was over. After the game, Trae was asked in an interview if he preferred to play off the ball or get it back in winning situations, to which Young replied, "It's not the other guy's way, it's the coach's way." And when Trae reflected years later on why he and Lloyd didn't get along, Trae had this to say: "Pierce was attempting to be a coach of X's and O's, who focused on winning, not development, which ultimately resulted in his firing on March 1st, 2021, and his top assistant coach, Nate McMillan, being promoted to an interim head coaching position." And while Nate McMillan was actually considering retiring at the end of the 2021 season, the Hawks' success in the 2021 playoffs inspired him to continue coaching. And after the season, Nate was hired to be the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks for the next 4 years. But things didn't go as planned for Nate McMillan, because Nate is an old-school type of coach, having played 12 years in the NBA for the Seattle Supersonics. After stopping playing in 1998, the year Trae was born, he began his coaching career working for the Supersonics as a coach, before being promoted to head coach in 2000. Nate has been around the NBA for a long time, and while this veteran, win-now approach is exactly what the Hawks needed in 2021, it's ultimately what caused his relationship with Trae to suffer. Because to start December 2022, Trae was dealing with a shoulder injury. And when Nate asked Trae if he planned to attend the shoot-around before their matchup against the Denver Nuggets, Trae let McMillan know that he was going to miss the shoot-around to focus on rehabbing his shoulder. Trae was doing this so that he could be available to help the Hawks win that night. But Nate didn't like this answer at all, informing Trae that he would be starting on the bench because he had missed the shoot-around, and that if he didn't want to start on the bench, he shouldn't show up. This ultimately angered Trae, who then made the decision to rest that night against the Nuggets in protest of McMillan's authoritarian coaching style. This difference in mentality between the young superstar and Nate, as well as the Hawks' poor results in 2023, despite new general manager Landry Fields getting Atlanta a second All-Star level player, led to Nate McMillan being fired. This decision by the Hawks front office caused fans and the media to call Trae a coach killer. But clearly, all Trae cares about is winning, and the Atlanta Hawks organization agrees. And just like the last time Trae was snubbed from the All-Star game and the Hawks head coach was fired, Atlanta made the playoffs and was set to face the Boston Celtics in the first round. Trae Young had several epic performances in the playoffs, but none more so than Game 5, with Boston up 3-1 and the Hawks trailing by a single point with 7 seconds left. Atlanta needed some Trae Young magic to keep their championship hopes alive. With 4 seconds left, Trae rose from the Celtics logo and hit a three-pointer over Jaylen Brown to put the Hawks up 2, giving Atlanta a Game 5 win and forcing a Game 6 at home. The Hawks, who entered the 2023 season, made Trae Young mind-bogglingly left off the roster for the FIBA World Cup training camp for no real reason. This left Trae feeling confused and upset. He wanted so badly to represent his country and compete for a gold medal like he did in 2018, with NBA veteran and elite podcast host Gilbert Arenas summing up the situation perfectly. And unfortunately for Trae, things haven't exactly improved in the 2024 season.
Yeah, you know what it was? It was honestly, it was one day in the summer. And this is just when I knew I was crazy about basketball, right? Because leading up to this, I was taller than all the kids. And I knew I was different just by the way I would think about shit. Like, I was the same way as you. I was tall, but I couldn't dribble. So I would spend hours in the garage, like, working on my handles, watching N1. Like, so fast forward to this moment, this is when I knew I was crazy about basketball, and I was crazy about the process of getting better. So, and for people that don't know Palmdale is hot as fuck. It's in the desert, like 100 degrees in the summers. My dumb ass, and where I lived, it was like right where a desert was. So I grabbed a backpack. I went into the desert, filled the backpack up with as many big ass rocks I could, right? And at this time, you might be young. You might not know about the jump soles. You know about jump soles?
Nah.
That's crazy.
Big ass
You don't know about
shoes
the jump
that have
soles?
to-
He young, bro.
Like you walk on your tippy toes.
People would wear them at school for the
Mario
bounce.
Cast?
Yeah.
Mario Cast. Yeah.
So my dumb
I've
ass.
seen a lot of shit. I don't be forgetting.
So I get these rocks. I put the jump soles on. I put the backpack on. And my block from end to end is probably like a good mile. I'm running up and down the street with like, and I'm probably like 13, 14 years old, but I'm running up and down the street, jump soles on, backpack full of rocks, like, and it's like 100 degrees outside.
Went down to win a dunk contest.
Yeah, bro. And I'm like, like running up and down, right? And then after that, I couldn't like hang on the rim. When you 13, 14 years old, like you hanging on the rim is the same thing as you windmilling, right?
Yeah.
So after I did this shit, I go ride my bike to the high school, my high school. High school closed. The gate is probably like from right here to the ground to like where this metal or aluminum shit is, right? That's how high the gate is. So I'm like, fuck, how am I gonna get over this? I managed to climb that shit, right? So I get into the school.
with the rocks.
With the rocks.
No. This the rock. This the rock.
The rock is gone.
Now I'm feeling bouncy because I just ran up and down, like, you know what I mean? Now I'm like, damn, I'm bouncy right now. So I ride my bike to the school. I get over the fence. I hop in. I'm in the school now. So the gym is, at this time, my school was new, right? So there was no gym built yet. But they had outside baskets. So I'm like, man, like and I could never hang on the rim. So I'm like, fuck, I gotta try to get on the rim. So I'm out there like just running, like no basketball. Like basketball ain't even on me. I'm just out there just.
It's for you. Yeah.
I finally hang. And that felt like everything to me. And like that's when I knew like, and I'm by myself. There was no homie with me. I was by myself. And so that's when I knew like
That's tough.
I'm crazy about basketball. Like this shit is for me.
Yeah.
And long story short, like that's when I knew I was like, all right.
Can I ask you why the rocks?
Because in my mind, it was I ain't got money for a weight vest.
Right,
Like
but who told you about like you put the rocks in your backpack?
it sounded smart as fuck to me. Like, you wear extra weight, you're heavier, so when you take all this shit off, you'll be lighter.
You could have just got a weight and put it in your bag or something that you like.
How much money you think I had?
Your daddy has some old weights around the house.
Your daddy where you going with them weights?
Your daddy,
Where you going with them weights?
daddy has
The
some.
20-pound, like,
Hey, put them guys. I spent too much money on the weight. So that was when I knew I was like, all right, I'm different.
That's tough. That's tough.
There you have it, man. Hey, Trae, we don't want to take up too much more of your time, bro.
man,
We appreciate you stopping through
It
the
was
podcast.
a blessing, man. Appreciate y'all.
Hell of an episode, bro. Y'all make sure y'all check out From the Point.
My man.